Hello, and welcome to the Full Circle Podcast, your source for insights into the science and art of endurance sports training and racing. I'm your host, Coach Laura Henry. So, you've decided that you want to train for a 5K. This is wonderful. The 5K distance in running has something for everyone, from beginners to elite athletes. The 5K is the most popular running race distance in the United States of America. Approximately half of all people who participate in running races annually do so in a 5K. Local charities often put on 5Ks as a way to fundraise, and there are also larger 5K events organized by for-profit companies. Whether you are looking to support a cause that means something to you, run with friends, or see how fast you can cover 5 kilometers, the 5K distance is an ideal introduction to organized, timed racing. A 5K is a running event that is 5 kilometers, 3.1 miles, long. It can take place on any surface, the road, on trails, or on a track. Almost all race organizers track how long it takes each person to complete the 5K via a timing system called chip timing. It is also known as transponder timing or RFID timing. These timing systems use wireless radio frequency identification, RFID, transponders that are worn by athletes along with radio receivers placed in strategic locations along the course to measure how long it takes for each athlete to cover the distance of the race. These transponders emit a unique code that is read by the receivers, and these look like wires which are stretched across the road or the course as the athlete runs over the receivers. Most modern timing systems embed these transponders into an athlete's bib, which is a piece of durable paper with a unique number on it used to identify and differentiate each athlete from other athletes participating in the race. Athletes pin their bib to the front of their clothing, usually around their stomach area, and wear it throughout the race. While 5Ks are definitely running events, it's important to say that you do not need to be a runner to participate in a 5K. As 5Ks have grown in popularity, they have become much more accessible, and they welcome walkers as well as runners. Running is well known as being something beneficial for health and wellness, but walking provides a lot of health and longevity benefits as well. A large study conducted with 225,000 participants over a 7-year period of time concluded that people reap significant health benefits when they walk 4,000 steps per day. So, whether you are a walker or a runner, you can set a goal to complete a 5K and expect that you will be welcomed equally at your Goal 5K event. According to the Mayo Clinic, the average American walks 3,000 to 4,000 steps per day, which is roughly 1.2 to 2 miles. Bear in mind, this is an average. This means that some people walk significantly more than the average and others walk significantly less. That being said, this average number tells us that the average American walks less than a 5K total each day, just going about their daily activities and living their lives. This means that covering the 5K distance continuously, whether by walking or by running, is a significant and meaningful accomplishment because covering this distance is above average when compared against the general population. One of the most appealing parts about training for a 5K is that it doesn't require a lot of gear. The only extra thing you may need to purchase is a good pair of running shoes. Seasoned and experienced athletes may disagree with me on this and declare that there are additional items that are necessary to train for a 5K. However, the truth of the matter is that while there certainly are several other things that are nice to have when training for a 5K, they are just that, nice to have. In other words, they are not essential. Even if a particular piece of gear is really nice to have, or if an athlete has gotten very accustomed to using it, that does not necessarily make it essential. Here are some of the items that commonly make it onto the nice to have list when training for a 5K. A GPS device, preferably with structured workout capabilities and navigation features. A heart rate monitor. Running shorts. A running top. A sports bra. A hat or a visor. Sunglasses, and sunscreen. It's really important to distinguish between what is necessary to train for a 5K and what is nice to have. Running is a popular way for people to both exercise and to train. Approximately 15% of people living in the United States run for exercise every year. One of the reasons that running is a popular form of training and exercise is precisely because it has a low barrier to entry and it does not require much upfront investment when it comes to gear. Anyone can start running right now. You literally can head out the door and run right after listening to this, no matter where you are and no matter what you're currently wearing. While I contend that a good pair of running shoes is the only required gear to train for a 5K because they significantly enhance the experience of running for people, both by being more comfortable and by reducing injury risk, even running shoes technically are not required. If you really wanted to, you could go running in any footwear you own or even go barefoot, though I really wouldn't recommend either of these options. The amount of time it takes to successfully train for a 5K can vary, and this is true of any endurance sport or event, regardless of discipline or the length of the event. It depends on a variety of factors, including, but not limited to, what your current fitness level is, what your experience level is with running and or walking, your prior injury history, how much time you realistically have in your life to train on a daily and weekly basis, and more. Generally speaking, I recommend that athletes new to endurance sports or to the sport of running plan for at least 10 weeks of training prior to their 5K race date. This may seem excessive or long at face value, but once you actually get started training, 10 weeks is not as long as it initially appears. I've seen time and time again how training for at least 10 weeks helps athletes feel strong, confident, and well prepared for their 5K race. Planning for 10 or more weeks of training allows for time buffers in case things don't unfold the way you expect over those weeks you spend preparing for your 5K. My experience as an athlete, a coach, and a human has taught me that things rarely, if ever, go exactly the way we expect them to. Humans are actually terrible forecasters, and I'm not just talking about the weather. Things generally go better or worse than we originally predict and expect. It is rare that things happen exactly as we predict. Planning for more time than you think you will need to prepare for a 5K is a good habit. If things go well, you will reap the benefit of the extra time and you'll be that much more prepared come race day. If things don't go as well as you hoped, perhaps you get sick, you have a project come up at work, your kid needs you more than you thought they would, or something else happens that disrupts your ability to train as you expected, then you'll have buffers of time that allow you to take that time away from training without significantly compromising your readiness come race day. Athletes who have prior experience in running or other endurance sports can plan for less time to prepare for a 5K, around 5 to 8 weeks, but honestly, even athletes with prior experience benefit from longer lead times and time buffers in training. It's much better to be overprepared when it comes to the amount of time you spend training for an event like this than it is to be underprepared because you tried to cram your training. Trying to determine the best way to train for a 5K can definitely be confusing and or intimidating, especially for athletes who are new to running. However, training for a 5K truly isn't as complicated as one might imagine it to be. I generally recommend that people training for a 5K get in 3 workouts per week, and I recommend that they be spaced out from each other so that you are not doing workouts 2 days in a row. These workouts do not need to be particularly long. Consistently and frequently getting in workouts is the objective here. This principle holds true whether you are walking or running the 5K. Starting with just 10 to 15 minutes of running or walking, or a combination of running and walking, is perfectly okay. The goal is to plan for workout durations that feel very doable to you, both in terms of the workout itself and how it fits into your life, and that they don't completely destroy you physically. Contrary to popular belief, the goal of workouts is not to destroy you and leave you feeling physically wrecked. Rather, the goal of each workout is to leave you in a state of readiness to be able to successfully complete the next workout on your schedule with strength while feeling good. By being mindful about your workout duration and scheduling enough time in between workouts, aka by planning for a day off from workouts in between workout days, you give yourself a higher probability of accomplishing that goal of feeling good across the board in your training. As you plan and build your training week over week, you can gradually increase the duration of each individual workout you are doing, which, in turn, increases the total volume of training you are completing each week. I recommend increasing the total duration of your workouts by no more than 10 to 20% from one week to the next. For example, if your longest workout in a given week is 15 minutes long and you tolerate it well, you can most likely safely increase your longest workout to be 16.5 to 18 minutes long in the following week. Over the course of a 10-week training plan, you should plan to build up to either 3 miles or 45 minutes as your longest workout. I recommend planning your training in 3-week periodized blocks, with 2 weeks being up weeks, where you are increasing your volume in your workouts, followed by 1 down week where you scale back your training volume. Scaling your training volume back by 10 to 15% in a down week from the most recent up week is a good strategy. So for instance, if you build up to 20 minutes as your longest workout in the second week of a 3-week block, I would recommend that your longest run in the third week, that down week, be no longer than 15 or 16 minutes. 2 weeks out from your goal 5K, I recommend planning for a taper week where you reduce your training volume by 10%. For instance, if you completed a 45-minute workout as your longest workout in your training plan, I recommend planning your longest workout in your taper week to be 40 minutes. Then, the week of your race, reduce the volume of your workouts down by another 10 to 15%. If your longest workout in your training plan is 45 minutes, the longest any workout in your race week should be is 35 minutes. The goal of the final 2 weeks before your race is to shed some fatigue and to have you feeling fresh and ready to go on race day. Reducing your training volume during these 2 final weeks of your training plan helps you enter that state of readiness. There are 2 main ways that you can structure your training, using duration or using distance. Duration-based training is a method of training that uses time as a basis for the workout. For instance, you could plan to complete a workout that totals 15 minutes. Distance-based training is a method of training that uses distance as a basis for the workout. For instance, you could plan to complete a workout that totals 1.5 miles. Since a 5K is a distance-based event, a lot of people often default to thinking that training must also be completed based on distance. This, however, is one of the biggest misconceptions in endurance sports. Duration-based training is one of the safest ways to plan training, and it's also one of the most practical ways to plan training. Athletes are busy people who lead busy lives outside of their training. A 2-mile run might take you 22 minutes on one day and 30 minutes on a different day, due to a difference in factors such as weather conditions, fatigue levels, or traffic. These deviations can add up over time, and if they cause you to run late, they can adversely impact your overall day in terms of planning and the other commitments you have. A 20-minute run, on the other hand, will always take you 20 minutes, therefore allowing you to plan better and more sustainably incorporate training into your life. In addition to being more practical, duration-based training is a safer method of training for newer athletes or for slower athletes. As an example, let's imagine that 2 different athletes have run for 2 miles on their training plans. Athlete A can average a 7-minute pace for 2 miles. Athlete B can average a 12-minute pace for 2 miles. Athlete A will cover those 2 miles in 14 minutes, while athlete B will cover those same 2 miles in 24 minutes. This is a 42% difference in training volume between these 2 athletes. And this is a lot. The body only knows time and effort. Distance is a construct of the human mind, and it's honestly irrelevant when it comes to how the body keeps track of training. Thus, athlete B has a significantly higher injury risk here than athlete A because of this significant difference in training volume. When athletes are new to endurance sports, they have not built up a robust training capacity yet. This means that they haven't established the physiological durability and resilience that is necessary to safely sustain higher training volumes. Athletes need to safely and progressively build up their training capacity over time, and duration-based training provides the safest way to do that by allowing athletes to effectively manage their training load relative to their training capacity. Consistency is everything when it comes to training. Interruptions caused by injury or by overtraining disrupt or stop consistency, which delays and sometimes outright ceases progress towards fitness and your goals. It can be hard to talk about being a slower athlete. In fact, it's so hard that many people do not do it. I, however, feel it's important to have these hard conversations and to talk about all people who are endurance athletes, the fastest, the slowest, and everyone in between. The speed at which an athlete travels does not determine their personal or athletic worth. All athletes, regardless of the pace that they can maintain, deserve to and have the right to train safely and comfortably for their goals. When athletes are slower, there are several important things that need to be considered in order to successfully reduce their injury risk. One of the most significant of these when it comes to running is that slower athletes have increased ground contact time. Ground contact time is a measure of how much time your foot is on the ground during each step. It's measured in milliseconds from the time your foot touches the ground to the time it leaves the ground. Ground contact time is an indicator of running efficiency and speed. It is very short for elite and very fast athletes, and it's longer for slower athletes. When ground contact time is higher, this means that an athlete is spending more time with their foot on the ground, which means that more force is going through their bones and their soft tissues. Spending more time running than is safe, aka running longer than one has the capacity for, increases an athlete's risk for injuries, especially stress factors, due to these increases in force. If you are brand new to running, I recommend that you do not try to run your entire workout right out of the gate. Leveraging a run-walk strategy is a safe and effective way to get your body used to the demand that running imposes on it. It's also a really effective way to mentally get used to training. When you haven't ever run before, the act of running can feel very daunting and very challenging. Many people start fitness activities or projects and then abandon them because they end up feeling overwhelmed by it or because they get injured. In most cases, this is because people try to do too much too soon. Incorporating strategies like a run-walk strategy into your training is a sustainable way to build your physical endurance as well as your mental endurance while mitigating your risk of injury. This will increase the probability that you won't burn out on the training and abandon it altogether out of frustration. When it comes to a run-walk strategy, you can deploy any ratio of running and walking. I generally recommend that athletes new to running start out with at least a 1-to-1 ratio of walking to running, such as 1 minute of running followed by 1 minute of walking, or 2 minutes of running followed by 2 minutes of walking. So for instance, if you have a 15-minute workout on your training schedule, you could run for 1 minute, walk for 2 minutes, and then repeat that cycle 5 times to get to a total of 15 minutes for the workout. That being said, it's not uncommon for me to recommend 1-to-2 ratios or greater, such as 1-to-3 or 1-to-4, of walking to running, such as 1 minute of running followed by 2 minutes of walking. Choose the intervals that feel the best to you and allow you to feel the most consistent over the arc of all of the intervals within your workout. As you consistently complete workouts and you start to build fitness, you can play around with the ratios of running to walking, either increasing the duration of your running interval or decreasing the duration of your walking interval. When you are running, you should aim to run at an effort that feels sustainable. This can be tricky to dial in on, especially if you are new to running. Many people think that running automatically feels terrible, but honestly, I think a lot of people feel this way because they try to run too hard or too fast when they are running. Many people effectively sprint, aka go as hard as possible when they run, and think that that very hard effort is the only effort that running can be completed at. But this is not the case. There are actually several effort levels that running can be completed at, and it is very possible to run at an effort that feels good and sustainable. The most common way to express effort in endurance sports is rating of perceived exertion, also known as RPE. Rating of perceived exertion is a way of measuring and communicating the intensity level of a given activity. It is a subjective measure that is gauged on a rating scale, most commonly on a rating scale of 1 to 10. A good gauge of whether or not you are running at such an effort is the talking test. Can you speak in full sentences while you are running? If you can, then you are running at the good and sustainable effort that I'm referencing here. If you are gasping for breath and/or you feel like your heart is going to explode out of your chest, you're going too hard. If you keep your effort at this level where you can carry on a conversation and speak in full sentences, you will be able to run stronger for longer. A lot of athletes new to running or training wonder if running on the treadmill is the same as running outside. The answer is that it is not the same. Sorry, folks. But that doesn't mean that it's not a viable or good option to run on a treadmill. The most important question to consider when deciding where you will train is this: what situation, running on a treadmill or running outside, will enable you to be the most consistent with your training? If using a treadmill allows you to consistently get in workouts, then it's the best option for you, training-wise. If you loathe the idea of being inside or using a treadmill and you are motivated to be outside, then completing your workouts outside is the best option for you. Neither of these options is better or worse than the other, and honestly, you can even complete a combination of the two. Maybe you run outside when it's nice, and when it's crummy out, you go in on the treadmill because you don't want to go outside and run in the rain. It's okay. Do what you are most consistent with. There are certainly differences between the two that should be considered and accounted for, but at the end of the day, Choose whichever location and option allows you to be consistent and allows you to consistently get in workouts. Consistency matters more than almost anything else in endurance sports. Training for a 5K might seem overwhelming or like a bit of a mystery, but when you break it down, it honestly isn't as intimidating as it might initially appear. If you're seeking assistance with training for a 5K, we can help you with one-on-one consultations, individualized coaching, custom-built training plans, or pre-written or pre-built training plans. By thoughtfully considering your approach to your training and consistently putting in the work, you will be well prepared to take on a 5K with confidence and with strength. That was another episode of the Full Circle Podcast. Subscribe to the Full Circle Podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like what you listen to, please be sure to leave us a rating and review, as this goes a long way in helping us reach others. The thoughts and opinions expressed on the Full Circle Podcast are those of the individual. As always, we love to hear from you and we value your feedback. Please send us an email at podcast@fullcircleendurance.com or visit us at fullcircleendurance.com/podcast. To find training plans, see what other coaching services we offer, or to join our community, please visit fullcircleendurance.com. I'm Coach Laura Henry. Thanks for listening.